Should the Vols consider more neutral site games in Nashville for recruiting purposes? I know where you are on this, Caleb. So please tell me about those awesome Nashville recruits that have come in and dominated the SEC in college football.
It's not just okay. I guess I wasn't as clear as when I brought it up. It's not just should they consider it in Nashville. I was saying they should consider neutral site locations in different spots. Like do one in Nashville, do one in Memphis, do one in Atlanta. Different stadiums across the South where you try to have a decent recruiting hotbed. Heck, do one. What about one at like Legion Field in Birmingham? You know, Alabama fans would love that one. And so,
Wow.
I'm just saying, and they don't have to be like officially sanctioned home games. But I would say, for recruiting purposes, wouldn't it be a good idea to try to play a game in Nashville, Memphis, Atlanta, Birmingham, maybe even somewhere in Florida every few years to try to help with recruiting? I think Tennessee should consider that on a regular.
Well, they have done that with a couple of different neutral site games, but
like Bristol does nothing. Bristol does absolutely nothing for you recruiting. It was a gimmick. They shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, it was a gimmick. It was a money-making thing, but they've done these neutral site games and they've scheduled home and homes to help in recruiting. But Caleb, I don't think that Tennessee really needs to do that anymore. And I think you put yourself in a position where if you schedule a Virginia, let's say 4 years out, and they hire the next Steve Spurrier, then you put yourself in a position to get beat. And neutral site games, I've had it. I don't like them in general. I don't like them in football stadiums. So no, I don't think they should do that at all. I don't think neutral site games have really any advantage inherent with them just because they're a neutral site game in a place that you want to recruit. So no, I don't think that's necessary. So here's my idea, and here's why it's awesome. How many service academies play football, Caleb? This is how it's scheduled on conference.
Division 1, it's 3.
Okay, and those are who?
Air Force, Army, and Navy.
Air Force, Army, and Navy. Here's what you do. You come out and you say, most people don't know that the University of Tennessee is retired for numbers because of men that were lost in World War II, men that's families for generations were never changed. So whether it's really from the heart or you are just doing this because it's a good PR move, you say you're playing the service academies, you're playing 2 of them every year, and you agree to do a home and away with one. That would get big time coverage, big PR coverage. Caleb's looking at me like I'm crazy, and I get that. But you do a home and away. Maybe it's just one service academy a year, and you do a home and away. Again, Caleb's looking at me like I'm crazy. But that way, the service academy, thank you very much to those out there. I know there's a lot for your service. You give the service academies a shout out, the money that helps keep their program relevant, and you look fantastic from a PR standpoint, Caleb. I mean, fantastic. That's what I'm doing, hands down. That's the best idea ever made. Tell me why it's not.
That is the worst, most asinine thing you have said since I've been doing this show with you over the past year. It is a terrible idea. And I'm sorry. I'm going to come off as the anti-patriot here. And it's not that I don't respect the service academies, but playing service academies does nothing for you. The home and home? Oh, wow. I get to go to Colorado to play Air Force, so I can really recruit that base in Colorado, guys.
I don't care about recruiting anymore. I think the recruiting world has gotten so small with social media. Everybody knows you anyway.
Well, wait, there's a bigger factor here. The service academies run the triple option. It is so hard to defend for that. And guys, go back in history. 2006, Tennessee beats the brakes off Cal to open the year. The next week they play Air Force. And the struggles of playing Air Force and defending that triple option is the reason that Inky Johnson suffered a career-ending injury in that game, and Justin Harrell suffered a season-ending injury. If those two play, Tennessee might be competing for the national title that year. Having to prepare for the triple option, I don't care if it's the first week, the last week, whenever, completely changes up everything you try to do defensively. And if you're in the SEC, you already got to work on preparing for elite offensive lines that you're going to face every single week in the SEC. And then on top of that, you have to add preparing for a triple option team before all of that. It's a terrible idea. Dave, you would be responsible for 5 Tennessee starters suffering season-ending injuries in the opener every year if you did this.
Well, it would be a great PR move. You would at least agree with that.
Yes, but it wouldn't be a good football move.
Defending the triple option is not easy. But at the end of the day, Tennessee could slip up against a triple option team, as some teams have done, but it's not going to happen a lot because the talent level is so different. You could slip up against a triple option team. These teams are also not going to be considered quality wins ever in the college football playoff. But after this year, that doesn't matter anymore. You've got a 12-team college football playoff, so you're going to make it in. I think I love the idea. I thought about it over the weekend. Nobody cares about who Notre Dame is playing in Dublin, Ireland, unless it's a service academy. And I think Tennessee could get that sort of good buzz, good vibe off of playing the service academies. And I would love to see it. Yes,
They could lose their 5 best defensive players for the year, which would happen every single year. You would get 2 season-ending injuries at a minimum every single year because they are not prepared to defend that triple option. It is I don't know how cut blocks are allowed. Chop blocking has been banned since the 1980s. I think cut blocks should be banned too. They're so dangerous.
Well, let's make sure everybody knows the difference. So a chop block is when you're engaged with an offensive lineman and somebody takes out your legs. A cut block is when somebody just takes out your legs as a way to block you, which is legal.
Right, exactly. And if you notice, that's why defensive lines facing the triple option that don't prepare for it regularly, they line purposely like 2 yards off the line of scrimmage because they don't want to give the offensive line a chance to hit them low on the block. It is so dangerous. It is I don't want to say it's an unfair way of playing football, but it's a cheap way of playing football. Now, you might argue that downfield blocking for offensive linemen is a cheap way of playing football too, which Josh Heupel has fully taken advantage of. But that does not open up risk for injuries the way the triple option does. I think it is a very, 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 very dangerous way of playing football, the triple option. I've never been a fan of it, and I definitely don't think you should be opening up to schedule to defend the triple option on a weekly basis. By the way, Tennessee a couple years ago, I don't know if you know this, they had Army on the schedule. Danny White just straight up killed the game. He said, "Nope, we're going to play."
Well, I straight up hated that at the time.
I thought it was genius. They took the PR blunts. They were like, "Oh, that's so wrong. That's so cowardice." It was smart. You have a brutal SEC schedule. You don't need to interrupt it by totally having to change your game plan. Because, by the way, these service academies, I don't know if you noticed, Dave, they're all capable of 9 or 10 win seasons on a yearly basis. They do that regularly. Do you really want to play a team that you covered that Air Force game? That Tennessee doesn't lose to Florida the next week if Air Force doesn't give them so much trouble the week before. That was a problem. And again, Justin Harrell lost his senior year and Inky Johnson lost his career playing in that game.
Well, but that had nothing. Inky Johnson had nothing to do with chop blocking. I mean,
no, but but when they do throw, it throws you so off that you do go full speed trying to lay somebody out a lot of times.
I mean, Caleb, that's a reach. He's just trying to make a tackle against a bigger dude.
What I'm saying is the concept in general, though, because it's not just the chop blocking up front. The whole switch of the offense has you totally playing off your game defensively, even if you were a defensive back. I'm sorry. You should always run from the triple option and accept being called a coward. I don't care. I don't care if they call you a coward. I don't care if they say you hate the troops or whatever. You could say, you know what? You may say that about me, but I'm trying to win a national title. No one's going to say that about you when you're holding up the national championship trophy at the end of the year.
There you go. Totally disagree, but it was presented.
I also think I think the worst thing college football does is give Army Navy a game by itself, a day by itself for the game. Are you kidding? We already have only so few weekends in college football, and you're going to waste a weekend with just this one game that few people care about. There, sorry.
Well, let's just say you've been called a communist on the message board. So if you're okay with that, that's fine.